You're listening to the Marginally Geeky Show, the epically geeky book club.
Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight I'm joined by Kris, Ray, and Joseph. How are y'all doing?
Excellent.
Spectacular. Yeah.
I knew it was going to be something along those lines. Tonight is episode 89. We are discussing Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes. This was Ray's pick. So we will go ahead and start off with Ray. How'd you go about picking this book?
I was looking up funny fiction books that delved into were more dark. Was kind of what I was looking for. And came up on a few lists. Then I read the synopsis and I saw who narrated it, and I'm like, this sounds like a great idea.
We also bought the book too. I think it.
Yes. Yeah. The cover is what got me. It was the title alone was like, oh, okay. So read the back. I'm like, oh, and then I was like, yeah, okay, this is definitely the quick reviews. I'm like, all right, yeah.
It's definitely something that would be fun to have, like if you had an office at work, to have sitting in an office just for your boss to maybe eventually come by and be like, oh, what's this?
That happened twice today.
Nice. Nice.
No.
What was the comment?
The first one was they walked by and just kind of like one of those things and kept walking. The next comment was by one of the senior partners. He's like, is this going to be the first line item of evidence? And I was like, no, Tim. No, it's not.
You're fine.
You're fine.
Nice.
Because I did point out to the girl that sits next to me. I was like, I want to point out it's not how to.
No.
Murder.
Right.
Just murder your employer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if it had the how-to on it, it would probably play a little different.
Yeah, raise some more questions.
Yeah. So, well, like I said, that's what we are discussing tonight. Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes, read by Neil Patrick Harris and Simon Vance. I did not realize he was reading this until I looked at the cover a second. I was like, reading on this was pretty good. And I looked down, I was like, okay, I recognize that voice now. Like Neil Patrick Harris didn't click with me at first. And then as soon as I heard, I was like, oh yeah, that's him. Like it didn't lock in for me at first.
Yeah.
It is a 4.6 with 1,500 reviews on Audible. So, I mean, it is highly, well rated. The synopsis is, who hasn't wanted to, who hasn't wanted for a split second what the world would be like if a person who is the object of your affliction ceased to exist? But then you've probably never heard of McMasters Conservatory, dedicated to the consummate execution of the homicidal arts. Let's see here. To gain admission, a student must have an ethical reason for erasing someone who deeply deserves a fate no worse nor better than death. The campus of this Poison Ivy League college, its location unknown to even those who study there, is where you might find yourself the practice target of a classmate, and where one's mandatory graduation thesis is getting away with the perfect murder of someone whose death will make the world a much better place to live. That is a very good synopsis for what this book is. Initial thoughts, Ray. Real man, okay. Just man, huh?
We'll get into it, but I just, you know what? I'll wrap. My thoughts are very much wrapped up like this. Show me, don't tell me. And this book, very, very written to tell me. And the whole thing is a tell me book, where I like to, show me what happened. Like, take me through it. Don't tell me what happened. Because
Right.
you miss a lot of details when you tell me what happened.
Okay. Kris, thoughts?
That I got to chapter 13 and didn't finish it.
Is there a particular reason you just weren't time, or?
I found it very boring. I just didn't care enough about the characters. Like I guess if I were to write a murder book, I don't think I would pick the setup of it being a recounting of it. And at the same time, I was also listening to an audiobook for the other book club I'm a part of that was also very slow, but for like a completely different reason. So both of them at the same time, I was just like, this one, I understand why this is slow. This is very low stakes, very sweet, very vanilla. This is supposed to be about murder. What is the murder? There's no murdering. We're talking about murdering. Not at all. There's no murder. And I did not like the Dean at all. He pissed me off. I was like, no, I can't. I'm done. I love you. I love you so much. I can't finish the book. And I didn't. And I might read it later on. Like, it's probably one of those where I'll pick it up again when I'm not in that headspace of like, I'm already reading something that's kind of not very slow. So I'll probably pick it up again, just not, it was bad timing for this book for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Joseph, initial thoughts?
It was hard to keep pace with because the issue is that we have all been kind of engrossed with other books, DCC in particular. And like with DCC, any chance I got, when I was taking a shower, when I was cooking, I was listening to it. And this one, it was kind of like, all right, I have some time. I'll listen to a little bit more. And then, but there were certain parts of the book where I was like, okay, I need to know what happens. And then it would kind of dip back down. I was like, all right, I can wait a little bit. It wasn't until Monday when I was like at 3 hours left or whatever. I was like, oh God, I need to finish this thing. So I can power through, because there was a part of me that said I could get to about 3 hours left and still have a good conversation here. We talked about most of the book, but then I want to know if he succeeded or not. So that would be my other thing. Yeah. I thought the narration was fine, but in my head, I will admit, for the first 20, 30 minutes of the book, all I could think of was like, this is 3 in a row, Ray. This is 3 in a row that you've done this to us.
I feel the same. I struck out. I don't get to pick anymore.
You know what? I'm gonna jump in and say, yeah, there were some parts of this book that were kind of slow, but I think of the four of us, I enjoyed it the most. Like, okay, you are correct, Joseph. Like, we have been listening to some real bangers here recently. And I mean, that just like hit the ground and run almost constantly, which could actually be pretty tiring if, depending on the type of reader / listener you are. So this was definitely a slower pace. Also, I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. So part of it was like, okay, what's happening here? What's going on with this? And then there were parts of it that, kind of picked up whenever we started getting into some more of the meat of the story, what was going on and everything. But I get what you're saying, Ray. And the fact that it's told more as a memoir kind of a type of thing, where it's very passive. Like, the entire time it's a very passive voice. Whereas it would have been more interesting if it was, I ran around. It was, well, what happened was it wasn't quite as engaging as it could have been. But I enjoyed it. And actually, Kris, I kind of like the Dean. Like, I kind of like that smarmy. Now let me temper this with, I kind of picture him kind of like the father figure in the Umbrella Academy. And I just finished that series.
Yeah.
And he is such an unlikable, horrible person The dean seems like the dean is. I'd be best friends with the dean because that guy is such a horrible person. So I think maybe that kind of like put me in a perspective that I was just like, oh no, the dean's just kind of dry, but he at least kind of has some morals and he sticks with them. So
the difference too is we listened to.
Oh, I read it.
And she read it.
I was reading it.
So, okay.
So I think that made a difference too because I didn't mind the dean either.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the book. Yeah. Go ahead, Joseph.
To me, maybe I was just misinterpreting what the dean was the entire time, but to me, it was just high class, hoity-toity British, the dean from Community. Because he's always around,
the dean from Community,
always part of what's going on, and like he was always had a comment or something to say, but he was a little more high class kind of thing.
That's hilarious. How you picture the dean would definitely color how you're going to, your enjoyment of this book. Oh,
just a quick aside on that dean from thing. I have to tell somebody. We recently hired someone at work, and I swear to God, we hired Moby because that's who he looks like. It's the dean for community. It's like I cannot look at the guy and like I have to turn away because I can't keep a straight face. But anyway. I work with Moby now, and
the artist.
He's a musician.
Oh, that musician.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
He has a head shaped like an egg.
He's shaved. Wears dark rim glasses.
Is he a vegan?
I don't know. I haven't eaten.
Bring over some tacos and find out.
But sorry, it was a quick aside because the dean from Community also looks like Moby.
Very much so. Yes. Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's talk about some of the characters. We'll start off with our main character, Cliff Iverson. He is the whole point of this book is essentially the dean is telling this story, and he's finally opening up about stories that have happened with the students who have come to the McMasters Institute for basically learning to murder people. And he's picked 3 stories. It even says on the front of the cover, book or volume 1. So I don't know if that was just kind of an aside, if he is actually thinking this is going to become a series and he's going to do more of it. Because this really would make a better anthology if it was going to continue on. But he's picked 3 students, not their real names, of course, supposedly. But the first one we have is Cliff Iverson. Cliff Iverson is decided he's going to off his boss. And we meet Cliff when he's literally lured his boss to New York, and he's going to push him onto the train tracks. And he thinks he's very cleverly gotten away with it because he's run into a store and he's changed his clothes and he's got the clothes stashed away and he gets rid of them and he goes to his apartment. It's not his apartment. He's actually visiting New York as well. And he thinks, I've gotten away with it. And literally 2 minutes later, the police show up and they're just like, yeah, we knew it was you. That was horrible. You did a horrible job. And he thinks he's about to be arrested and he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life. And they're just like, well, you have an option. We can either kill you because or you can go to this institute. And so they blindfold him or whatever. And he doesn't really understand what's going on at first. And then he's taken to the McMasters Institute. That's where we run into the Dean Harbinger Harrow, who's telling the story. And then the rest of the book is either the Dean retelling the story, or it's from Cliff's first person through the journals that he's created, because he's been sponsored. And because he's like, they're like, most people have to pay a lot of money to get in here. We do have other ways that sometimes happens. And you have a sponsor. And he's like, well, who's my sponsor? He's like, can't tell you. Someone has just sponsored you to be here. And they want you to keep a journal of everything that's going on. So the whole book is told from either the Dean's perspective, retelling what's happened, or from Cliff's journal, essentially. Thoughts on Cliff or the Dean? We've already kind of hit the Dean a little bit. I like Cliff. I understand his motivation. I have to say, I do understand his motivation.
Yeah, I understand the motivation. I sympathize with the motivation. His boss is definitely a fucked up motherfucker type of guy.
Yeah.
Cliff is boring as shit. No other way to say it. Like, yeah,
He's pretty straight laced. He's pretty.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Arthur from House on the Cerulean Sea, meaning he just sort of at the very beginning, where he just sort of has just enough of a miserable life
Mm-hmm.
to just keep going, but hates it. It just sort of that miserable sweet spot where you hate your life because there's really nothing else you can do.
that, but without the growth.
Yeah, obviously. So, but also I didn't read that far, so he's just stuck like that for me. But yeah, he kind of reminded me of just this dude who hates his life, but not enough. And then he does this thing, and he thinks he's so clever, and he does not get away with it, which I appreciate his thought process. I really appreciate how thorough he thought he was being.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate that.
And I do appreciate later on where he rethinks about how he set it up and how, hey, this part was a good idea,
Yeah.
but this is why it would have failed. And but again, it's the things that he learned that we don't know that he learned because we didn't go through and learn it with him. He just told us that it would happen.
Yeah. Fair enough. Joseph, any thoughts on Cliff or the Dean? Any more on the Dean?
I would share the sentiment about Cliff being just a kind of boring dude, but I think that's why the murder works, because he is an unassuming, boring dude.
Yeah.
No one would really think twice to look in his direction.
Yeah. So the book does take we basically follow 3 students essentially at the institute. The second one is let's see here, where is it? Delcy Moan, aka Dora May. She's an actress. She's actually going by a pseudonym, and of course this probably not her real name as well. She is there because she's interested in killing her boss because she's gotten a little older. She's basically not, the hot new thing on, in Hollywood, and she's basically being forced out. And on top of that is her boss is, we'll go back. We'll come back to it in a second, but her boss is, he's just a horrible guy. Like he's constantly, doing the traditional, thing you think of Hollywood, like, setting up young women. Hey, you might have a future or whatever. And, he sleeps with them and then just like basically throws them away. And she's like done with it. She's done with the way that she's being treated, the way she's being basically rooted out, and for all of the crap that he's done to all these other women and such. So she's decided it's time for him to go. Any thoughts on her real quick? I liked her character as well. I don't think she was that deep of a character, but I liked her. She was probably my second or third, the one I liked the most. The third character I didn't really care for at all, but
the actress, I appreciated the end for the her ending part.
Yeah,
that, the murder with the final or final thesis. That was entertaining part and one of the few entertaining parts of the book. But it was I guess it was just a really slow build up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So and I don't really remember, I don't think she really interacted with the other 2 characters. I don't remember.
Not really.
So I was confused as to why I think that's what I was confused why her story was lumped in with the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
I did like though that Cliff, because I only got introduced to the 2 of them. The Gemma and Dora. What's her name?
Dulcie. Yeah.
Dorian.
Dorian May is her actual name.
Yes.
But
So Gemma and Dorian. I only got introduced. But I did. No, I totally lost my thought. So I only, that Cliff, because she was sort of undercover, but Cliff recognized her, but didn't know from where. Like she didn't put his finger on it. So that's where I'd sort of left off with his interaction with.
See, and
Dorian.
And I didn't even remember that part.
Yeah.
And they do end up meeting up at the end. And
Not her.
not her.
Where the dean says that the way she says, I could murder him. What do you say? Like, we have to watch her and then we'll check again in 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So because she asks to come back to the school and teach, and he tells her, like, listen, your skills are very suitable for the murder that you had intended, and that's a very difficult thing to teach because it's very specific, and you would need somebody else with your skill set in order to. So it's a pretty niche market.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they decline, and then that's when she says, "Yeah, I could kill him." And yeah, so
let's see here. And then pardon me, let's go back around to Cliff. So the reason why Cliff wants his boss dead is because him and a guy who was basically like kind of like a father figure of his designed this new airplane, and their boss basically makes all these changes, all these little small changes to save money, which basically is turning it into a death trap. He doesn't care. He's like, oh well, we'll put it out there, and then we'll make some fixes if there's an issue or whatever. And he can't stand the fact that this is going to happen. And his we later find out through the book his kind of father figure guy kind of offed himself because he couldn't handle it. And then this girl who's really interested in also killed herself essentially because she couldn't handle the idea that they're going to put this plane out that is going to kill a bunch of people.
And we find out later that there was also wasn't there pictures of her?
Oh yeah, that's right. He had pictures of her, and yeah,
there so she was being blackmailed as well. So
I think I got that part too.
yeah, he that boss was a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, he definitely needed to go. And then the third person is Gemma Lindsay, who's a nurse. And she technically has already killed someone. Technically, her father was had cancer, right, and was in a lot of pain, and basically helped him end his own life. Yep. Her boss finds out about it and basically is using her to do all of the work, sitting back doing nothing. And it was like, oh, it'd be a horrible shame if people found out. You probably would lose all that money that you got out of the settlement and everything. If they found out your dad, you basically killed your father. And
what would your mother think?
Yeah, what would your mother think? And then and so that was her motivation through the book, was to kill her. Yeah. To kill her boss. So all three of the bosses, I guess, kind of deserved it. Of the three, the Gemma's boss is the one that I was like, well, there could use some other stuff to maybe ruin her life. I don't think you really need to off this woman. But maybe that's just me.
A bit of a stretch to kill somebody over that, but yes.
Yeah, it was a little much. All right. Any particular favorite parts of the book?
I did like Cliff's attempted escape. That was hilarious. He's realizing, he's like, I didn't even leave the property. It's like, no, you didn't, and everybody was in on it, but you're cute for trying.
Yeah.
I liked that. It's funny.
Yeah.
I did like that. That was cute. But he was so calculated. He had it all figured out, except he had nothing figured out. And it was like, dude, we knew you were going to do this. First of all, this is why it didn't work. And so he's learning, but it was just they were like, wait.
Yeah.
You tried. Don't do it again.
I liked all the terminology. I like how, and it specifically said, if anything was ever written down, like we're never going to murder anyone. We're going to eliminate them or delete them. We're going to delete them. This is not your plan to murder them. This is your thesis. I liked that. I thought that was fun. I will say, when we do finally get to the end of the book, I was interested because, we start getting close to the end. I'm like, okay, so, because it even says not everyone's going to succeed. I'm just like, oh, okay, so who's not going to succeed here?
Mhm.
And so I did enjoy the very end when it talks about, what ends up happening or whatever, except for Gemma's. I'm just like, I was, part of me was just like, you know what? Yeah, whatever. You kind of deserve everything you got. So, but Joseph, any particular things that you really liked?
The really true parts of the book that I was invested in is when they were talking about, like, when the actual murders were taking place. I don't know if this is the right spot to bring it up, but I'm gonna bring it up anyway. I don't like the choice to take the dialogue away from Neil Patrick Harris in the murder scene. I would have much rather had him talk to Fiedler than the narrator.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I was at a loss as to why they did that.
Me too.
Especially at the end of the book, because he comes back and it's then going back and forth again, and like, that was okay. That was all right. But yeah, I will admit I paid attention when it became time to actually go through their thesis, and like, so that I paid attention to. But, fuck, that's a lot of book to get through to get to the end.
Yeah, it was.
It was also the way that things were laid out. They were so convoluted on how to cover every single aspect of their tracks. It almost made Gemma's attempt feel really stupid.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, pure chance, and like, yeah.
But I mean, that's also why they said they were worried about her, because they're just like, number one, your initial thesis was kind of shaky, and we don't know if you've got the chops to pull off, having to punt essentially and play by ear.
Essentially, it wouldn't have worked anyway because she survived. So
yeah. So let's see here. So I like I said, I enjoyed all the build up, like whenever the final kind of confrontation or whatever. I did enjoy that. I do enjoy how Cliff ends up offing his boss, because I like one of the things that they said. In order for you to even get into the institute, like, it has there were 3 questions that had to be answered. I don't remember what the 3 questions were right offhand, but they basically boiled down to was, if this person dies, is anyone else going to care? Is it going to be a net benefit to the world in general? And then there was another one, and it was very clearly like his checked all 3 marks. I was just like, oh yeah.
Will the deletion affect an innocent bystander or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. So
it's Dexter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Kill serial killers?
Yes.
Wasn't that his whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, least favorite parts.
The pacing of it. It was really like, and I guess I think I'm in a book hangover right now, and it's Joseph's fault because he introduced this Carl. But like, yeah, the pacing was just really, really slow for a book about an assassin school. So I thought it was very, very slow. It was just, the pacing was really slow. I wish it would have picked up a little quicker and just been a little bit more just adventurous. I think I was wanting an adventure, and I felt like I was sitting in history class, and I was
that is an excellent way to put it. That very much is how it felt.
Yeah.
Especially in the 50s, for fuck's sakes. Like, we couldn't wait anyway.
When I read the synopsis before I started reading, this is one of those few instances when I feel like watching anime kind of skews my perception of stuff. There's an anime called Assassination Classroom, and it's assassins going to a school, and their daily homework is to try to murder their professor. And so
okay.
The professor's an immortal alien, so he like doesn't ever actually die, but they teach them, how to do this stuff. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be just the English version of that. And no, it was a history lesson.
Yep, very much so. I have to agree. Pacing is kind of rough on this one. I think maybe if we had not read so many things that were back to back, like I said, balls to the wall, it might have gone down a little easier. But even then, like I was thinking about, I'm like, this is very much kind of in the what's the one with the talking cat, the kid that's
Starter villain.
Starter villain. This is very much in the vein of that type of book. That it is a dark humor.
Yes,
but that book was interesting. It was also told first person, and it moved. And this one, once again, like you said, was like history class. So
the other thing I was thinking about too was like, what would I do to change how I tell this story? Mm-hmm. If I really was stuck on this manuscript style where I'm having somebody rewrite what happened, I think I would have stayed with each person's perspective up into the point that the murder occurs, and we don't know if they succeed or not, and then wrap did they succeed or not at the end of the book, or wrap up they meet back at the school, or like their follow-ups. Part of the pacing for me was I'd get a little bit here. Okay, what's going on? And then, cut that off. Now we're going to this other spot, and we're going to learn about this person's thing. So I think for me, that was part of the pacing. I understand that they wanted to introduce each character and kind of flow that way, but I think it broke it up too much for me.
Fair enough. Well, we've already kind of talked about the writing. Would you read another book by the author?
Probably not. If I reread this again and I find I like it, I might, but
I have no interest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it, but I'm not. Let me put it this way. I've not clicked follow on Audible yet.
I won't be. I'm not looking out for it by any means. And the only way it happens is if somebody tells me like, hey, listen, this book is really good. And if I look it up and it's this same, I'll be like, very questionable of whether it's a good book.
So since you've done it 3 times, should we look at you very questionable?
I don't know, man. I got to start going online and looking at other people's opinions, I guess.
Let's see here. Did reading the book impact your mood at all?
Yes. I got fucking angry. I'm like, could you just move the story along a little bit? I've been listening for an hour, and I don't fucking know if anything happened.
It felt so bad. It's like, again, I've done it.
I made a mistake. Yes.
So like I said, I liked it more than everyone else. I thought it was fine. This one got a pass for me.
I will say, I finished this one. The other 2, I didn't even bother. So,
There you go.
I wouldn't have bothered.
Take a win. They're giving you a compliment.
No. Okay. No, that's a shitty win.
One thing that upset me wasn't even technically about the book. It was Audible. For some strange reason, I don't know if it's just the way the book is broken up or what, but I would listen to it in my car, and I would listen to it at work.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like, chapter 42 is what it would announce to me, but then, that's what it would show, but the narrator was like, chapter 35. It's like, what the fuck? Yep. Where did I lose 6 chapters or 7 chapters? Yep. And it happened throughout the entire book.
So I guess I didn't pay attention to it then.
I had to do the same thing, Joseph, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, we're angry.
And I am, because that's just one more thing. Like, I already am not enjoying the book, and now I got to search through it and figure out where the hell I am.
It got real bad when I was listening to it one day at work, and I went through like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I went for a walk, and I very dumbly, it had drained my battery one time, and I decided to turn it off. I don't have my phone and the Audible website synced to each other, so I just go into my phone, and I always try to end in the Audible website at the end of a chapter. So when I go to my phone, I just
Yep.
You know, next until I get to that same chapter. Well, the book told me I was on chapter like 30, but Audible was like at 38, and I was like, I don't know where I am. What the hell's going on?
Damn, that would suck.
Yeah, that'd be frustrating for sure.
I eventually figured out that the time remaining in the book was constant. So if on the website it said there was 3 hours left or 3 hours and 5 minutes, I would fast forward and go back until I ended up at 3:05, and I was like, okay, then I would start from there.
Yeah,
Wow.
the chapters are off by like 5 or 6.
Mhm.
I didn't even realize it. I just, of course, I wasn't looking down. I was just listening. I was just, usually I had it in my, my phone in my pocket while I was doing, something else. But
I only originally noticed it because that new stereo that I installed in my car,
Mhm.
it shows the screen, and I could see the front cover and the chapter I was on the display.
that would do it.
Yeah.
That would be annoying.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That would be
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was like, oh, I'm on chapter 51. And then I'd listen. So I'd put it to 51, and it was like, chapter 42. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm glad I'm not the only one that experienced that, because I would have been like, I was worried, like, what if it does that to Carl, and then I can't find my spot in that book?
Nope. What's this one?
And at one point in time, I was like, is it my radio? Do I need to like uninstall a radio, put the factory one back in, and see if that fixes it?
Did anyone go through and like look at the comments to see if anyone else like commented and had that issue?
Oh,
No, I didn't know about that.
I don't. I'm gonna have to look at that and see if anyone else is just like, hey, what's up with that? So, so listeners, if you decide to listen to this book, beware. There may be a major issue. Does anyone have any lingering questions?
Did the dean die?
Yes. Absolutely.
I mean, we assume he died, but
No,
did he
he
die?
No.
Because then I question Eugene's original thing where he said, this is volume 1. Is there going to be another set? Not if he died. So
Unless he's already done all the volumes before he, was offed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they released them posthumously.
Or it was one of his employees who offed him in order to release the other books.
Well, what was the complaint that they were afraid people were going to figure out where where McMasters was?
Yes. Yeah.
I like the coach. The coach was cool.
Yeah, like it very clearly says volume 1. Well, it's kind of hard to see there. Volume 1, like right there in the middle. So
yeah, it says that on the cover and on the spine.
So somebody asked if the author was paid by word. They really drew this out. Were they paid by word? That's a great question.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
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 Interesting. My only question is, are they going to keep going with it and make it a series? So, narrators. I thought the narrators were fine. Like I said, I did not realize it was Neil Patrick Harris at first until I heard the name, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's very clearly him. But I thought narration was fine. I think it was more so they did a good job with what they were given.
You know what? That's actually one of the things that I had an issue with.
Really? Okay.
I don't mind Steve. What's his name? Like the English guy. He did
Simon Vance.
Yeah, sorry, him. I didn't mind him. He was pretty good for the most part. Neil, I found really. I think I've seen Neil Patrick Harris act. I know he can act, and I thought I'd get something a little bit more punchy and like actually like draw me in.
Do you think that's his reading, or do you think it was because the character was so bland?
I don't know, but we know that a good narrator can draw you in.
Very true.
And we've talked about that before, where like, not sure if you read the book, it might be, kind of boring, but when you listen to it, it really brings you in. And I think, I wonder if that's part of this issue with me on this book too, where I just knew, like, again, great actor, but fuck, I was getting like Will Wheaton vibes.
Oh Lord.
I like Will Wheaton.
I do too.
And listening,
I like
I
him.
think it's. I was being read a history lesson too,
Mhm.
and it was not
Mhm.
exciting or listening. Yeah.
Fair enough.
The narrator was good for me.
I
Stephen Fry reading it to me.
All right.
He was
my
great.
only issue, I agree with Ray. Simon Vance is great. My only issue with Neil, and I didn't mind Neil. My only issue with it was that the way he was reading it out was almost identical. And I know this because I can almost quote this entire series. But there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother
Mhm.
where they're going over the plays in the playbook, and he is narrating what each play is and how to do it. And that's all I could picture was just him doing that, you
Yeah.
know, because it was very much the same style. Now, on the flip side of that, we have also been spoiled with Jeff Hayes and, you know,
Ray Taylor and
yeah. there's so
I'm
many
listening
that
to a
we've been-
series right now with Luke Daniels. Like,
yeah,
tell me about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that element, I think, as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, before we keep going with the questions, I just realized we have not talked about the endings, like how they fared. So it's way too much stuff to go into, but essentially, what's his face? Cliff goes through this long process and it makes it look like not only is it's not just that he wants to kill his boss. He's like, I have to, when I off him, it also has to come out that this plane is dangerous and it cannot go to manufacture like it is.
Yeah.
Which is why Cliff is a very redeemable character in this book. Because it's like, not only are you trying to kind of get vengeance for the fact that the girl you really liked, she's dead, your kind of pseudo step-in-father's, dead. Like, you're generally trying to do a good thing. And so he sets up all this stuff, makes it look like his boss was taking money, that he was selling plans and stuff. But I love the way that he kind of corners him, and he's just like, I'm going to give him every opportunity to do the right thing. And that was one of the other things was, when you go to delete someone, you have to give them the opportunity to do right. You've got to give them one last shot. And he's like, tell you what, you sign this, and we walk away and everything's fine and whatever. And he comes to find out, like, he's like, no, he took the opportunity to try to kill me, the bastard. So no, you're dead. Because he does the whole kind of a version of the old switcheroo of, there's two glasses here. We're going to poison one of them. Turns out, oh no, they're both poisoned. But so
I very much got Princess Bride.
I did too.
Vibes for that scene.
But I mean, our generation always will. Like, that will always be the epitome of,
Yeah.
I know that I know. Oh,
Yeah.
We
want to keep it away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
The part that I was confused why they added it was at the end of his thesis, he also said, hey, to the dean, he's like, listen, I know his death was actually a suicide because he was trying to be murdered to help his wife out, knowing that he had once gone to the school too. And like, okay, like, that was a weird thing to add in at the end. Like, why wouldn't you just leave it as, hey, the guy was a prick, and so now he's choosing to be a prick in order to be murdered? Is that what you're trying to intend? Like, I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing to add in.
Yeah, when he told me about the endings, I'm like, I didn't miss anything. I don't think I would have liked that, and I probably would have been angry at the ending, probably.
Do Gemma's ending next, and then we'll do the better ending. Sorry, Joseph.
I'll say, I was not expecting who the sponsor was. Like that.
I wasn't either.
I feel like that came completely out of left field.
Yeah.
There was no indication on that one at all.
I did kind of like that that we find out that his sponsor is kind of like his stand-in mother was like, yeah, course, it's like, okay. So this nice old lady basically is just like, I'm going to pay for you to be an assassin. So,
Yeah.
so, or at least to do it the right way.
It was the boss's wife, wasn't it? Or...
No, it was his partner that killed himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about Gemma. So she just kind of was a fuck up all the way around and couldn't get it done. And it was like, okay, so what if I tie basically a really long string to these bricks and they're going to fall on her and we're going to get it set up and she's asking her questions. And when she literally says, oh, well, it's fine because I'm pregnant. Before the next words came out, I was just like, she's gonna jump in the way. She's gonna jump in the way and she's gonna kill herself. She ended up not dying. But still, I'm just like, I understand you don't want to kill technically an innocent baby, but I'm just like, how happy is this kid gonna be with this mother? Like, because she's a fucking piece of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I was not. I when I was expecting, when they said earlier in the book that they like, not everyone is going to succeed. I'm like, oh, so someone's going to try to kill someone. And no, maybe I'll put this on myself, but I was expecting something more. Not that someone was going to be last minute, be like, oh no, I can't go through with it. I'm going to kind of sacrifice myself instead.
So it maybe would have been more interesting if they had the three different. So one succeeds, one fails, and then one changes their mind last minute like that. Like
that might have been better.
Would have been better. But to have it where the two succeed and then one does what she does is like, I understand why, and it's interesting that they bring her back to talk about morality and all that stuff at a school that they're talking about killing.
There's no, yeah.
Teach morality here. That was kind of an easy wrap up.
Although I do see why they would need someone to help teach morality, just because of the one guy that they ended up offing, because they were just like, you keep fucking up and you don't get it. The point is to learn how to kill someone that deserves killing. And you're clearly like, well, it doesn't really matter who else, collateral damage. Who cares? It's like, that's not what you're here for.
Yeah. I will say, though, I did appreciate the priest slash whatever the hell he was, that he he wanted her there as well so that she could help talk to the women about confession and stuff like that, because a lot of the women didn't want to talk to him, which was understandable.
Yeah.
So that was decent. So,
yeah. And then we come to the last one. She did technically succeed. What is her name? I cannot remember her name.
Dorian Gray.
Dorian, yeah.
I've said a different name each time, right?
Yes. So what did y'all think of hers?
It was fine. Like it was the most entertaining in the way of like. Oh, sorry. I liked Cliff's, but this one was like. At least it was a shot at him, like destroy his reputation as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that I didn't mind, of like, dressing very specifically so it looked like another man came in, and like that was all interesting. But
yeah.
Other than that,
I didn't find the setup of hers. It definitely wasn't as convoluted as Cliff's, but there were parts of it where I felt like. Oh god, the best way I can describe it is like a video game on easy mode.
Yeah.
It was very much this went wrong, but I conveniently have this to figure,
Yes.
with like, especially with the photos at the end, like,
yeah,
it felt it did not feel as thought out and planned as Cliff's did.
Yes.
Now that you say that might have been one of the bigger issues that I had with the book, is we go through all this stuff and then Cliff has this kind of mousetrap like level. This happened, and it made sense why he did everything he did. Like, he did all these different steps and you're like, why is he doing all this stuff? And it's like, like he is so locked in. There's no way for old dude to get out of this unless he literally just did the right thing, which he wasn't going to do. but yeah, like hers definitely seemed like it was not, and maybe that's one of the things that was missing from the book. Maybe not so much the fact that two of them succeeded, one failed. Maybe it should have just been that we needed these. Like the whole point of this institute was not just how to murder your boss and get away, or murder someone and get away with it. Like in order to do so, you need to learn this really in-depth process and all these steps and everything.
Yeah.
And the first one, we got all of that. The second one, we got a light mode. And then the third one was just like, I don't know, I'll drop a rock on her.
Yeah.
And it's like,
drop concrete in a convertible.
yeah. It's like, yeah, that boy, I'm sure glad you went to the institute for that, girl. So,
But it'll tie a string on it so that it looks like it's an accident.
yeah. So, I think we've kind of already covered that. So, I'm going to put this as general as I can because this is a video podcast. Is there someone that you would consider attending the school for?
No, I don't think I could.
Not anymore.
No, I come across as very angsty, but really it's just like, I don't think I care enough about somebody's demise
Mm-hmm.
enough to do that.
Yeah. In my dark days in my past, there was one
Yeah.
that I probably would have.
Yeah. And he would have fucking deserved it.
I'll be honest, the last few weeks have had me thinking, not naming any names, but there are some folks that I'm just like, if you weren't around, I would definitely fail at one of the questions. Or would there be people that would miss them? Yeah.
Yeah.
But would it help a whole lot more people? Yeah.
The needs of the many.
That's right. There you go. The needs of the many. And I will leave it at that. Joseph, if you have the opportunity, you attend in the school?
Currently,
the institute?
Currently, no, and definitely in my past, for sure.
Fair enough.
Although I would say this, if offered the opportunity now,
Mm-hmm.
I would go. I'd like to learn,
Yeah, if you're offered the opportunity, yeah, absolutely. It'd be like, do I have to have a thesis? Like,
But
can I?
I'll never pass, which I guess is the issue.
Yeah.
Can I just come and like audit it?
Yeah.
Like I go.
Can I audit some classes?
Also, wild to me that there was no science and engineering course already there that they had to hire Cliff for.
Yeah, that is a little odd.
It was the 50s.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, airplane engineer is probably the absolute height at that point. So, yeah. But, all right.
When was the V2 launched? 56? Because they just said 50 blank towards the end.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's roughly kind of the time period that I pegged it for as well. All right. Well, final thoughts. Any other things you want to throw out there that good or bad?
If you enjoy a really slow burn that will eventually pay off in some form of murder, and you're okay with wasting, how long is this fucking book?
So grumpy about it.
Go ahead. If you enjoy if you enjoy Ben Stein talking to you,
it wasn't that bad. It wasn't.
You listen on double speed.
I was listening at 1.7.
Oh, hey, there you go.
That was the only way that I was listening to this. If I listened at 1 times, dude, it would have been Ben Stein.
I feel like this would be good for somebody who needs like a break from like a lot of heavy and or like intense books.
Which is hilarious because it's about murder.
No, I know, but if it's written in such a way that it's not threatening or anything. It's not like high stakes, even though it sounds like it's actually not. But if you are somebody who likes that genre and you just have been like reading like really intense stuff, this would be like you're still in your genre, but it's a little less like high octane, and you need a break.
Yeah,
your poor nervous system is shot. Yeah,
I think the other thing too is that this book to me was sold to me as if it was going to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny.
Funny's hard to
I
get
wouldn't
across
consider
with
this
it.
to be a funny book.
Yeah.
There are
I definitely found it humorous, like, and it was a lot because of the dean. Some of the comments the dean made, I thought were humorous. I don't think I ever laughed out loud, but
it was no Uzi Jesus rising out of the ground.
no,
I haven't
he's not.
gotten there yet. I haven't read book 6 yet.
Nugget or two.
You'll get to Uzi Jesus.
Yeah, that's this was supposed to be a funny book, and I just find it funny. So
Fair enough. I actually found more of the humor in like I said, at the university, and a lot of it was because of the terminology and stuff that they used, and just some of the situations were kind of interesting. But yeah, once we get to the point where we're going through their thesis and actually learn, what happens. Yeah, there wasn't really a lot of humor. It was really more so, like I said, just this is what happened, and we go through it step by step. So, all right, well, I there's our review of Murder Your Boss. I'm sorry, Murder Your Employer. Like I said, if nothing else, a fun version to have maybe out on the desk or in the bookshelf if you have an office at work. As for our next book, number one, it will be it's Joseph's pick, and it will be the next book in the Carl series, but it will not be next month probably. As we discussed, I think we've already discussed on the show, we're going to try to start getting in some interviews, and we're currently working on trying to get an interview for next month. Hopefully that works out. If not, then it'll probably be the next Carl book. So we'll see. But yeah, we are working on trying to get some interviews in. So next month we're hopefully going to get an interview in. I don't want to drop. We haven't confirmed anything yet, so I'm not going to say anything as to who or it might be. So, but we'll leave it at that. So, just know when the next Carl book comes out here in a couple of days from when this will be released. Just go ahead and pick it up and read it because we will be talking about it. So, yeah. So what else have you been reading, Ray?
nothing, because it took me everything I could to get through this.
Kris, have you been reading anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been reading lots. I've read 6 books already this year.
Nice.
So I can't remember the first one. I have everything up in my journal. The first 2 books I can remember is a duology by Rachel Gillig. It's called it's the Shepherd King duology. So the first one, it's a gothic magical romance, I guess, but it was fine. It was okay. Like, it was good, but like the way it was being passed around on Bookstagram was like, oh my god. And I was like, it's fine. It's okay, it's interesting magic system, because it's with playing cards and stuff like that. And then I read the Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and it's more of a paranormal supernatural romance. It was good. I learned a new word, which I can tell you later. And then I didn't know that, and
I had to look it up.
I read a lot of werewolf romance, and that was a new one for me.
I'm interested to learn what this word is now.
And then
for those listening, look up nodding.
I will tell
Nodding.
you.
Okay.
Okay. And then I had nope, don't.
You won't get it right. I thought I knew, and I didn't.
You didn't know. And then I was reading for my other book club. It's called The Gown, and I'm trying to look up who it is, and I can't find it. The Gown, which is a historical fiction about the embroiderers for Queen Elizabeth II when she was a princess, her wedding dress.
Jennifer Robson.
Thank you. So it was about the people who did the embroidery for her wedding dress when she married Prince Philip. And it was a very interesting take. 3 different main characters, time jumps. It was very sweet, very lovely historical fiction. I really liked it. Learned some stuff, which is always cool. And now I'm reading another. I'm on some real fantasy romantic-y kick right now, which is probably going to kick me in the butt. I'm reading one now, the second of the series. I can't remember what it is. And then I started Amber's book.
Okay.
Book that's on Audible, which happens to be her first book that she ever read. And I just started that yesterday, and it's called Of Darkness and Fire. It's intense. She just went right into it.
Yep.
It's also romantic-y. So again, it was just like right off the hop, and I'm like, whoa, Amber. Okay, we're not mixing. All right, we're not like messing around. We're just gonna go right for it. Okay.
So Amber Palmer is my sister-in-law, and we're going to be interviewing her on the Creatively Geeky Show next week. So we weren't going to necessarily have her on here to chat, mainly because we wanted to talk to her about her writing process and everything. But who knows? We may end up if no one else, I'd have to go back and reread it because it's been a while since I've listened to it. But if nothing else, who knows? Maybe we can have her on sometime, and if nothing else, just you and me, Kris, and we can discuss it with her. So
yeah, it's like it's very action packed so far. I'm only like an hour and a half or so in, but yeah, super action packed, like really fast paced, which is cool.
Fair enough. Real quick, Joseph, before I ask you, so I actually heard some interesting good news. I can't remember if it was on the actual news today or if it was something that I read online. But apparently Barnes & Noble is actually looking at like adding 50 some odd stores this coming year, and they contributed to Bookstagram and Book Talk because more and more people are getting out there and talking about the books that they're really enjoying reading, and more people are picking up books and reading them. And I'm just like, that's fantastic all the way around. So just want to throw out that little bit of good news. So Joseph, you been reading anything else?
Yeah, I am still working my way through Mavericks rather, from Expeditionary Force. That one is, I'm having a hard time with it, but I'll keep going. And then I started earlier this week, before I realized where I was in this book and needed to finish. I decided to start The Children of Hurin.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of Tolkien's unfinished books that takes place between the Silmarillion and the Hobbit. So I started that. It's cool. It's more of the world. I also, because I had an extra Audible credit, I bought the Fall of Numenor, so that will be the next thing. So eventually, I'll start all over again. I'll start with the Silmarillion and just power through.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where I am right now. I've never read either one of those, so it's.
Let me know how they are. I think I have both of them here, and I haven't read them yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I found out about a new book in a series that I had started a while back. The first book is actually called Ascend Online, and it ends up like many books do, like it becomes a series, and that's kind of like the name of the series. It's written by Luke Chimlenko, and it's read by Luke Daniels. That's how I found it. Is at one point I was listening to Luke Daniels. I was like, what else does this man read? So I went and found this book. It is, I think, the first lit RPG I've ever read. And I was just like, what is this? This is literally reading a book version of an RPG game. And that is what the premise of the thing is. It's set in 2030 something, 2040 something, not too far ahead. And this company comes out with this game called Ascend Online. It's super futuristic. This group of friends get in. It's kind of like a pod thing you get in, and so it's completely immersive. And the one guy takes so long trying to design his character that he's not able to spawn where everyone else is in the city. He ends up spawning in this little bitty town that's currently being attacked by orcs. So he immediately has to learn how to play the game and fends off the orcs or whatever, and starts building up this town when his friends finally show up. And then the second book keeps going with that. The third book, they've actually kind of changed the order depending on how you're reading them, actually takes place with another group of heroes that are in the main city. But there's sorcery, there's demons, there's this old ruins and stuff. It is very high fantasy type stuff. but it is very much of the reason why I have liked it so much is because it is very also much resource porn. It is, all right, we got to build up the city, so we got to go work on this. And I talked to the one guy, and he's also a craft. Like, not only is he a fighter, but he's a crafter. So it's very much also like his building up in woodworking and metalworking and how he can make new tools and weapons and stuff like that. The type of stuff I gravitate to when I do actually play an RPG game, like being able to like, sweet, I made a new sword. This is awesome. Can't wait to use it, but I really got to make a new sword. I would almost recommend it for this group, but like I said, there was a huge gulf of time between some of the books. I don't know if something was going on with the author. I haven't had a chance to really go through and research it, so I'm hesitant to recommend it for this group because I'm afraid y'all would be like, no, I really like this. Because at one point, I'm just going to kind of give this away. He ends up getting a nemesis who is a puma, who ends up becoming his familiar, who becomes sentient. And Amaranth is one of the best characters in the whole series. Anyway, but yeah, I'm a little hesitant to recommend it because I'm going to wait until maybe the next book comes out. And if I look and I'm like, oh, it's only been a year, he's definitely back into writing this, I may recommend it for the group because I think at least, actually, I think all three of y'all would enjoy it.
Eugene.
Yeah.
So it's an isekai.
An isekai.
So isekai is a genre of anime, literally thousands of series that are exactly that.
Okay, fair enough.
That is my favorite genre of anime to watch.
Okay.
So everything you just described, I was like, all right, I'm in. Let's do this because I would watch that.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you to go ahead and start it because you are going to enjoy it. But like I said, the only reason I'm holding back is because I'm like, I don't want you to be like, sweet, I've read the first 6 books, when book 7 coming out, and be like, I don't know. Like, and I don't foresee this one. I'm only a couple hours in on this last one. I don't foresee there being an end anytime soon. So I hope old dude just keeps writing. Like, so. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good series. So, and like I said, it's read by Luke Daniels. So the voices are fantastic. It's kind of funny because now it's funny. I didn't really pick it out the first time, but I can go through and I'm like, that sounds like some of the characters from the Magic 2.0 series. Kind of reused, but it's not exact. You're not like, oh, that's clearly Gary.
Yeah.
Gary but not Gary. So anyway. So that's what I've been reading. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for the month. If you would, we've actually kind of cut back a little bit. So you can find us social media-wise on Facebook or Instagram. We're not dealing with all the other madness. On the other hand, we do the show on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch or subscribe to us that way, you can do that as well. And I've been playing around. I will probably do it for this one as well. I have found a site where I can do reels from the show. So if you haven't listened to the show or watched the show yet, check us out on the different social media and on YouTube, and you might get a little snippet of some stuff out of the show. And if you find it funny, you know what to look for. So, and hopefully I'll be doing that for the rest of the shows as well. So we'll see. And always you can find us at epicallygeeky.com, where you can find the other shows we do, including the Epically Geeky Show, Sustainably Geeky, and Creatively Geeky, which, like I said, next week we're actually going to be recording an episode where we do an interview with my sister-in-law, Amber Palmer. And who knows, we may end up having her on this show as well to talk about the book series and stuff that she's written. The only problem is she's only got one book that's an audio book. And I was just like, listen, it's not that I have a problem. I'd love to read the rest of your stuff, but if it's not an audio book, I can't do it. I can't do it. So.
That's why I always look before I pick if it's on Audible or not.
Fair enough. So I can't do it. Like, literally, if I came home and was like, all right, I'm going to sit down and read for an hour, it wouldn't happen. I'd get about 10 minutes and be like, doesn't matter what it is. Even Carl would put me out. Like, I just can't do it. So where can we find you online, Ray?
Reluctant Nitty on Instagram. And on Blue Sky, I'm. Oh, you know what?
Something.
Yeah, hang on.
Something.
Oh, he's looking up. I'm on just Instagram because I don't have the bandwidth for anything else. Moody Midlife.
The Reluctant Yeti on on Blue Sky as well.
Yeah.
Nice. There you go. Joseph?
Morjo7 on Blue Sky.
Nice. And as always, you can find my individual wacky adventure on Instagram and Facebook at Optimus Gene. For everyone on the site, have a good night.